Welcome in, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Johnston, joined by my co-host, Jacob Warriors. Jacob, first off, before we even get into the Kentucky game, the basement. How
We're
are we
here.
looking? Big
We're
Blue
here.
Nation wants to know.
We're in it. I got my water heater. We're here.
We're
I'm
here
down
and
in.
we're back.
I'm locked in the basement to do my podcast.
This guy left me in the trenches taking grenades. And if you
Whatever.
know where that reference is, it's one of the best movies of all time. That's Wedding Crashers right there. But Jacob, let's get into this game because almost a carbon copy of the game down in Knoxville. Cats beat Tennessee at home 74-71. Wearing the denim uniforms, and Jake, man, they got 96 guys were back. The crowd was loud. You fall down 14, and you and I are texting back and forth, and it never I don't think you and I thought at any point they were out of that game.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was necessarily the fact that we had just done that against Tennessee or what it was, but how good does it feel this stretch that we're on as of late?
Yeah, 7 of 8. How about that? I don't know if we thought at any point we'd be talking about a number like that. Obviously, they haven't all been pretty, but I don't care. 7 of 8, 7 of 8 at the end of the day. Yeah, you said it's a carbon copy. The one thing about this one that, felt a lot different was I didn't necessarily felt like Kentucky was playing bad like we've seen in all these other games where they've fallen down behind double digits, right? They go through these long scoring droughts, can't buy a bucket. I just thought, Tennessee was red hot. I was texting you the whole time, and I'm like, I don't feel bad about where we're at because they can't shoot like this forever. And I think you saw the exact opposite of that in the second half. And Kentucky, I didn't feel like was playing bad. There were a few, bad turnovers and some missed free throws, but outside of that, I know it was 14 at half. You don't feel great about that, but I thought we actually played pretty well in the first half, and I know that sounds kind of weird to say when you're trailing by 14, but Nate Ament was killing us. Gillespie was hitting every three he shot, and I felt like Tennessee wasn't going to stay that hot, and they didn't, and we were right back in it.
Yeah, it really just seemed that a lot of the things that we were struggling to do in that first half were correctable and something that, obviously the missed layups were driving us crazy, the turnovers driving us crazy. But when you're talking about how Tennessee was scoring, there was Nate Ament did get some, open threes, but there was some contested shots that he hit in there too.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing with Gillespie. Him and Colin Chandler have that same type of shot arc where you think it's going to hit the scoreboard inside Rupp Arena when they throw it up. And he knocked a lot down in that first half too. They have 8 threes between the two at halftime, and that's
Gillespie
that's
had
something that
19 at half or something too.
Yeah, it was those two were on a crazy run in the first half, and you had mentioned you didn't think they were going to stay that hot throughout the entire game, and boy, did they really come crashing down in that second half, and that's when the Cats finally started to score, finally started making those layups, and really, just ways in which they're starting to win these games now.
Yeah, Gillespie and Ament had 19 and 14 just in the first half. Those are some pretty good numbers. Ament looked like the second coming of Kevin Durant there. So that one little turnaround he hit was, those were just tough buckets. And I think if he had done that the entire game and you lose, I think you just kind of shake their hand and move on because that's just one of those performances. But, to Kentucky's credit, this team never gives up. And, me and you were texting the biggest, I think, change was, Colin Chandler was giving up 5 inches on him, and I thought he defended him incredibly well. I know he had a couple fouls where he was grabbing him and stuff, but I thought for the most part making that switch to put Colin on him, I thought, this was one of Colin's all-around better games. I think when you look at everything he did on the defensive side, that being the biggest key, and then obviously making the big shot down the stretch and making some big plays on offense.
Yeah, even, that being said, Nate still had 10 points in the second half, so he still did get. I'm right there with you, but just kind of checking the box where they only scored 24 points. Still, 11 of those 24 were from Gillespie. But Gillespie only had 1 point in the second half. Nate Ament had 10 of those. You mentioned the defense that Colin Chandler was playing on Nate, so a lot of those shots that he forced him just to where he couldn't get as many shots in the second half as well. only had 6 attempts. You mentioned four of those points that he had were from the free throw line. So to hold those guys to 11 points when you mentioned in the first half, they had 33 of the team's first half points, it was incredible and something to. I don't know what the scout was going in because, those are the two that you knew were going to go crazy on you. And if Tennessee was going to win, those two are both going to have good games. I did hear that Mark Fox was on the scout for the first half. So Jake might be proven right once again. But, whatever they've done at halftime, they've found ways to at least throw different looks at guys, at least make them, think about what they're doing and not necessarily get in a roll. You saw that with Gillespie and Ament in the second half.
Yeah, and I think you really just kind of saw really difference in kind of how the games were played from the first meeting in Knoxville. The first game, it felt like Tennessee was kind of killing you inside. I thought, Malachi and even to an extent like BG played really well in this one and did, a lot of really good things on the defensive side. Malachi was some big blocks, and then, the physicality I think is still a little bit of a struggle for him, but I thought he handled it a lot better this time around than we saw him 3 weeks ago in Knoxville handle it. And I don't know, I guess maybe our scouting plan might have been we thought they were going to try to kill us inside again, and part of it again is just Gillespie was red hot, and that's a talent like Amen. He's going to have halves where he can go off for 19, 15, 20 points, and nobody's going to be able to stop him. And I think that's just kind of what we ran up against. But as we talked about, they definitely cooled off there, and making the switch to Colin Chandler I thought was huge. Owe was kind of getting torched in that first half, but I will say I think Owe he had a couple big stops on him down the stretch once Colin picked up his fourth foul. I think it was pretty clear they didn't want him to foul out, so they switched him off of Ament, and I thought down the stretch Owe made a couple big time stops on him as well.
Yeah, this was one of those classic Otega Owe games for me where there's like 5 or 6 plays throughout the game where I'm just like ready to not watch Kentucky basketball again for 3 weeks. And then there's 10 plays during the game where you can tell he's the best player on the court. And while it drives me absolutely mad sometimes, and Jake, I think you've been able to see this roller coaster that I've been on with Otega Owe this year. And at least on the offensive side of the ball, I think we can kind of rely on what we're going to get. Defensive side of the ball, there are still games where he decides to either bring it or not bring it. You can see, like, when he is fully locked in and fully bought in, like, how much he can change shots. Like, even in that first half, Emmett hit, like, a tough, like, I think it was, like, 16-footer right over the top of Otega. Otega was in his jersey.
Yeah.
It was just a height difference. There really wasn't too much that you could do in that situation. And that's kind of something I alluded to on the podcast for the game that you skipped, Jake, that you just left me high and dry for. Something I had mentioned, we just didn't really have a matchup for Nate, and that kind of proved right in the first half, and then really just making sure he got the ball out of his hands in that second half really is what allowed Tennessee to score they scored 24 points in the second half, which is
after 44 in the first.
It's just ridiculous. Like, you hold them to 20% shooting, 6 of 30. 12 of their points in that half came from the free throw line. Just an absolute masterclass defensively. I don't know where that was in the first half, but I guess if you can do it for at least one of those halves and string together some good offense, you got a shot.
Yeah. And, back to Owe, it does feel like the last few games he's getting that finishing ability back, right? That we were talking about, like where did it go? He's finishing around the rim. Multiple and ones. I know he missed the free throws, but it was nice to see him finish.
Yeah, dude, what's going on with that? He was a good free throw shooter last year, man.
Yeah, I don't understand that one. But finishing through contact, and then that pass to Colin there at the end of the game, man, that was huge. You could tell Tennessee was fully into Owe's not giving this ball up, and I was thinking it in my head as that shot clock was kind of winding down. I'm like, Otega's going to go try to make a play here. And I just pretty much had my fingers crossed that he was going to make it. And then Tennessee sent 3 guys at him, and I think a lot of times, even this year, especially last year, you still would have saw Otega try to take that up and get the game time bucket. And make that tough angle pass out there to Colin, I think that's huge. I thought, not Ortega's one of his best 3 games, but I thought he was really, really good in this one.
Yeah, he was. And if we could get that free throw shooting back to what it was last year, 78%, I'm surprised it's actually at 72% because it feels like lately he's been going.
The last few has been tough.
Yeah, it feels like even in this one for 4, that Arkansas game, he missed a good amount. I mean, then again, this team also did, what was it, 1 of 8 from the free throw line to start this game. So
we missed our first 5.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and this is why, I think you and I felt comfortable after how the first half was going. Even, you mentioned how crazy it sounds when you're like, yeah, down 14, I feel fine.
Yeah.
But when you shoot 10% from the free throw line and turnovers and you're not finishing around the rim, I think that's a big reason why they were down 14. So a lot of those mistakes were correctable, and you saw these guys come out with a more like concerted effort finishing around the rim and honestly just hitting free throws, which, Jake, we're going to sound like the, old white guys at the YMCA just talking about hit your free throws, but even they still finished this game shooting 59%. In a close game like this, obviously Saturday we have to play Florida at Florida. You're not beating Florida shooting 59% from the free throw line.
You can't leave points on the table against Florida. You're going to need every single one of them, I think, just to even try to keep that one close. But I mean, the thing about this team as of late, we talked when they were losing all these games, and it was right after Missouri, and you said, like, bad teams find ways to lose games. And I agreed with you and thought we were a bad team. Man, now we're finding ways to win games, whether it's one steal or, a full court pass for the buzzer beater, whatever it is. But, like, even that, Colin misses the front end of a 1-and-1, an 88% free throw shooter there. Our most clutch player, we were talking about it, makes the clutch shot in this game and walks up and misses the front end. But Diabate just makes a play. Like, it's just always like somebody's just making a play at some point throughout these, 7 wins here over the last 8. Like, they just find ways to go out there and make the right play, make one extra play. And from a team that like could not execute down the stretch against North Carolina and Missouri and tight games, since then it feels like every play that you had to have at some point throughout the game, they're making that play.
Yeah, and it seems like there's always a different guy you can point to.
Yep.
Especially over this last, we've won 8 of our last 9. And Jake, you didn't come in gloating, so I'm going to give you your flowers here. You said 4-1 over that 5-game stretch.
Yep.
We've completed the 5-game stretch. Went 4-1.
I think I picked the exact one we were going to lose. I told you we were going to lose that.
You said we were going to lose to Vandy. I'm giving you your flowers here, man. I took
let's hope we do better than the 2-6 I predicted in these last 8. But
yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, thanks for bringing the vibes down here.
No, I'm good, man. We're back. Hey, we're in the top 25. Like, vibes are at the highest they've been probably since we beat Purdue in the preseason. Like,
Jake, and a lot of the reasons why I think these vibes are high, if you can think of like the 2 biggest guys who have really sparked this change, obviously Ortega's kind of taken his game to another level, but we mentioned like the guard play you had to start to get from these guys with knowing Jalen Lowe was going to be on the shelf for the rest of the season. Denzel Aberdeen and Colin Chandler, in my opinion, have stepped up and have become completely different players since that stretch. Like, Denzel Aberdeen, Jake, was there ever a time in your life you'd have thought you would have seen me post Denzel Aberdeen on my story? You ever thought that was going to happen?
No, I mean, I told you a couple weeks ago, like, there's not been a player that I have flipped more on throughout a season than Denzel Aberdeen. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was begging. We were on here begging for him not to play, and now he's, by far one of your best 5. He's in every lineup when you're trying to figure out what lineup can you put on the floor for the team to be good. Like, I think those 3 guards have solidified themselves as, having to be on the floor. And then at times you bring in, Jasper to get him a breather, or if you can't buy a bucket and you bring him in for something like that. But like, I think every lineup you're talking about to close out the stretch, I think it includes those 3 guards. It's just who's going to play in the front court with them. And I'm with you, man. Denzel has completely flipped. We have an off-air nickname that I know we have alluded to in the past, like that, not good, but that was back
If
in the struggles, and
you can ask, we'll tell you there. No, not on air.
so, um, but man, for him to flip that switch and like I don't think he was like phenomenal in this game, but you know
Yeah, but that's
these are
that's also part of what we're saying here is like this is
yeah,
a game where you look back and you can't really think of like this being like a Denzel Aberdeen like grade A performance, and yet he
he
still
still
had
gives us
16
16.
points, knocked down two threes, obviously hit four clutch free throws at the end of the
Yep,
game.
that was
And
the
I'm at the
big thing.
point now where I think that's the guy I probably want on the line at the end of the games. I mean,
Him and I would still say Colin. I know he missed that front end, but
yeah,
like those are the two. You're right. If you need two to put a game away, those are the two guys I want at the line.
yeah, and Jake, I mean, you've kind of alluded to it. If a month and a half ago I would have told you Denzel Aberdeen scored 16 points, hits two threes, and shoots 50%, and we're talking about how this wasn't like a grade A performance from Denzel Aberdeen, we would not have believed it. So I mean, this was the 180, like you mentioned, that he's had in this season. Him and Colin Chandler are, I'd say, probably the biggest reason for this turnaround. I don't think that's too big of a stretch. I mean, you think of like all these games that we've played, you can pick to almost an exact point in a play that Colin Chandler made a huge play to kind of turn the tides or, seal the game. Obviously, the pass at LSU, he had the steal at Tennessee, the three against Ole Miss, the three against Arkansas, and the turnaround against Arkansas. And then now, obviously, in this game, hits the big three to give you the lead. It seems like, minus the 1-1 that you brought up earlier, if there's a big moment to be had, Colin Chandler's at the front and center of it, and he's taking full advantage of them.
Yeah, and you heard Jimmy Dykes talk about he's our best pressure shooter, and I think that's pretty obvious when you watch this team. It is funny, like right after Arkansas, we went through and talked about all the clutch moments and talking about him being our most clutch player, and then he comes out and nails that three. I mean, it's just for him to have that confidence. Like he's a player. I know we've talked about the roller coaster. It's just when he's playing confident basketball, which now he's done over the stretch of 8 games here. So
Mm-hmm.
you would think this is probably the longest stretch he's really put it together. So you would probably assume, at least I'm going to assume, knock on wood, that like this is now just what he is, and there is no more going back and forth and trying to find that confidence. But he's becoming the player I think we anticipated at the beginning of the year, talking about him being one of our top 2 or 3 players on this team. And that obviously he gets forced into that role a little bit with guys like JQ and Lowe not playing, but he's every bit of one of your best 2 or 3 players on the floor at any given time.
And especially the versatility that he's currently bringing this team. Like he can give you some minutes. Obviously, we don't think his best minutes are going to be at the one, but he can spare you some minutes at the one, and he can honestly guard almost like 1 through 4. You obviously mentioned how much he had to guard Nate Ament in that second half, and really forced him to just ball denial. I think was the best thing that he did. I mean, making Nate. I mean, I don't know. The camera panned to him 3 or 4 times while he's on the bench. Dude was gassed.
Yeah.
He made him work for everything, and I think that was really
Well,
one of the like
and
bigger understories of the game that no one hasn't really discussed at length yet.
yeah, and you made him. I know he was hitting jump shots in the first half, but Colin made him purely a jump shooter in that second half. He was not letting him get to the rim, and I think you saw him early in that game get to the rim. That made Ortega play him differently, and then he started knocking down the outside shots and everything. And to your point, he was gassed because he was fighting so hard for the ball every single time that by the time he was taking those jump shots, you could tell his legs weren't what they were to start the game, and he left quite a few shots short. And I think it all just comes down to the ball denial, and then when he did have the ball, Colin saying, "You're not getting to the rim. You can try to rise up and shoot it over me, but I'm not letting you get inside the paint."
Yeah, and it seems like that's kind of what Colin did last year against Arkansas. Started becoming like one of our primary defenders, especially on ball. And that's what really allowed his confidence to get going. We mentioned, the kind of run that he went on in February and March and even into that NCAA tournament. I'm just hoping this is like starting to be like the beginning. Like right now, we're talking about him making like certain plays in games. Like I don't think it would surprise us if he, averages 13 plus points per game for the rest of the season. I mean, like right now, he's not shooting too many attempts. Like he had 8 attempts in this one, still scored 9 points, and that was with him missing the front end of a 1-and-1, 2 steals, 3 assists. Like if that's I mean, I guess theoretically he's our 3 with the lineup we have going. I'm here for it because right now, if there's a shot going up from behind the arc, he's the guy I want taking it. Right now.
Yeah. He's probably got the most confidence from behind the arc. Him and Denzel Aberdeen. I mean, a guy that airballed multiple shots every game. It felt like.
Well, I think Jasper does too, but they're just not falling currently.
Jasper's always going to have confidence. I don't think we got to worry about that.
Yeah, definitely not something you have to worry about with Jasper. But I mean, I was kind of, tell me if like this is something that surprised you. Were you surprised with like the game plan that Tennessee came in with? Because it felt like, how they built that first half lead in Knoxville was through just like straight bully ball. We saw how many attempts around the rim that Carey got. He obviously didn't, finish most of them. But with, obviously like since then we obviously still don't have JQ. You still know like Malachi obviously didn't put on like a bunch of mass in that week or 3.5 weeks, whatever, 2 weeks. Jake, I don't know. Time is going so slow and so fast at the same time that I don't even know what week it is. But were you surprised to see like they went away from that game plan? Is that something that really worked in Knoxville and they kind of just went completely against it?
Yeah, I don't know because like we kind of talked about it even in that game in Knoxville. Like their bigs had some points, had some moments, but like they were still like missing 2 or 3 shots, grabbing the rebounds, and like not finishing around the rim. I mean, Carey looked scared in this game, which is not.
Yeah, I know. You heard what the crowd was chanting at him at the free throw line.
But like, I don't know if it's just because of like Oweg and Garrison kind of getting in his head there at the end. But like, there was one point he grabbed an offensive rebound, had a wide open like one dribble, and probably could have dunked it, and he instantly caught it, turned his back, and was looking to kick it out. And that was early in the second half, and like right there, I was like, he looks terrified to have the basketball right now. So he personally just looked like a completely different player than the guy that I saw in Knoxville. So I don't know, again, if it was the crowd that was getting to him, if it was the Oway thing. But yeah, I mean, they definitely didn't try to go with the same game plan. And, that could be what got, Kentucky could have been trying to deny so much inside that's what got Ament and Gillespie going. And then at that point, Rick Barnes probably just said, hey, let's roll with this. But like, if you remember last year, like this is something similar Tennessee did against us, right? I forget if it was the game in Rupp or Knoxville last year, but we came on and we were like, Tennessee shot like 33s in that game and shot a pretty poor percentage. And we were like, if you sign that up, like it's almost like Rick Barnes when he plays Kentucky just goes against what he does against
everything,
every single other team. Like they turn into this jump shooting team. And I don't know if that's something that Pope makes an adjustment that forces him to do that or what. But like, I mean, that game last year, there was at one point, Ziegler was like 1 of 10 from behind the arc or something and kept shooting. Like, so I don't know what it is about playing Mark Pope that makes Rick Barnes just like forget everything that his teams do that's successful. But I think you saw that again Saturday. They completely turned into a jump shooting team, and in the first half it worked, and then they went cold and could never hold on.
Yeah, this, I don't want this to be like a Tennessee focused podcast, but they didn't change anything the entire second half. Like there was no adjustments to try and get back to it. I mean, Jake, they dominated us on the boards. It was 46-31. They out-rebounded us by 15. So like you knew the size was obviously giving us a problem, and we weren't really up to the task to get it fixed or however you want to phrase that. But you mentioned it. I don't know what it is with Rick Barnes and him coming into Lexington and seeing that Kentucky blue, but it almost seems like he's I don't know. It's just like like if you watch him coach against like other teams, like you see him make in-game adjustments and like he'll go away from something if it's not working for whatever reason. Against UK, he just doesn't seem to do that. I guess unless it was in the tournament last year, but
that was another one. They were just kind of crazy hot in the tournament. We just stood no chance. We couldn't buy a bucket outside. If I remember, Lamont played pretty well. the rest of the guys really
Jake, I've
didn't.
tried to block that. I've tried to block that game out of my memory. The only part that I remember of that game, obviously, we lost, and I
Just
remember
the Uber
seeing,
ride home, and we were talking about
yeah,
how we were never going to see Amari play basketball
yeah.
again. I
We
remember
saw
that.
Amari tearing up on the sidelines, and man, I
And
speaking of Amari
Lamont
Williams,
hugging Pope in the tunnel.
yeah, man, that almost brought some tears to my eyes there. And speaking of Amari Williams, Jake, what about him signing the 2-year extension with the Boston
So
Celtics?
that's it's not a guy I would have thought could play in the NBA, but I think when you actually look at it outside of the shooting, I think he gives everything you want to see from a big in the league. So happy for him.
Yeah, well, that's just because you don't know ball. But continuing to talk about ball, Jake. I mean, let's go ahead and let's mention like some of these other guys that we need to bring up here. Is there a point where we start to get concerned by the not having like a traditional rebounder on the floor? Because like right now, I think you can say, how do I say this nicely? I think Brandon Garrison is playing over his head currently. And granted, hopefully that's something that he can just ride the wave of momentum with. You know, we mentioned roller coaster. Brandon Garrison's career as a Wildcat has been a complete roller coaster. I mean, this game he had 7 rebounds. Nobody else had more than 5 on this team outside of him. And I don't know if you can consider. I don't know if BG getting 25% of your team's rebounds in a game is something that you can go forward with.
Yeah, I don't know. Like they give up a lot, but again, down the stretch when they need one, they find a way to get it, whether it's Diabate or Garrison or Malachi or whatever.
I
But
don't know how Mo gets so many rebounds off of free throws when we're. It's incredible.
just keep doing it. I said, I thought Garrison played really well. He still had the most frustrating play of the game. I feel like that's just the
Yeah,
Brandon Garrett. Like
I already know where you're
no
going.
matter how well he plays, he'll still have one play throughout a game where you're like, "Are you freaking kidding me, man?" And yeah, not dunking that ball on the fast break and blowing the
I
layup.
knew. Yeah,
You're
I
you're
immediately thought of
6'10".
Jacob Boyers when I saw that.
You're 6'10". My I get it was the first text from my dad all night, and it's just dunk the bleeping ball, and I'm like, it's ridiculous. So, um, yeah, that was actually the first moment where I thought we're gonna lose. Like the fact we blew that right there because I think then they went down and hit a shot and went right back up 2 scores. But yeah, BG, he'll make some plays and then he'll do something that just makes you want to pull your hair out. But overall, I thought he played pretty well. Back to just the rebounding. Yeah, I mean, that's if you're asking me what's going to happen in the NCAA tournament when we lose, whether it's the second round or first round or Sweet 16, I don't think it'll be the first round because I think it's going to have to be a team that has some size and athleticism. But I think it's going to be that we're going to get out rebounded. A team's going to make turn second chance points into big threes, and that's going to kind of be the kiss of death of this team. But again, the fact that we're just talking about March Madness, whereas a few months,
Yeah,
a few weeks ago, we were talking about like, is this team even going to make the tournament? Are we going to be in the play-in in Dayton? Like, I'm happy to be at this stage, but like, I
definitely.
am with you. Like, I think that's going to be kind of the killer, and like, I think we're going to see a pretty good version of that this Saturday against Florida. Like, I think they're gonna
It's
kind
going to be a good test for if you can rebound or not at a high
of.
level. It's going to be a very
and,
good test, that's for
and
sure.
Florida doesn't miss a ton of shots, so when they do, you better not let them get that offensive rebound to lead to another chance because they will make you pay.
It, yeah, and I don't know how Florida got off to such a bad start, but I mean, dude, they've turned the corner, and
Boogie
that team
Flan's a
looks.
different player than he was earlier.
Yeah, it takes a little while to get that Coach Cal out of you, and he's
Yep.
finally gotten it out of
Yeah.
him. But I do kind of want to give BG his flowers. 3 offensive rebounds in this one, 7 in total, and I'm only played 17 minutes. And the part
Yep.
that I think of Brandon Garrison's game that's kind of picked up a little bit is, one of the best things that actually happened to this team so far this year was that it's going to sound dumb. Was that blowout against Alabama? Nate Oates just like physically coming out and saying, "Oh, they don't pass out of the post. Their big men don't pass." Like we know once the big men are getting the ball, shots going up. I mean, since then you've seen Malachi's ability to facilitate. Brandon Garrison has made some of the better passes I think I've seen out of this team over the past 2 games. And that's kind of where I'm starting to get a little, I don't want to say like happy, but just like dreaming a little bit of what this team can do. You're starting to see ways in which this team can play offensively like they did last year. Now, granted, we don't have that playmaking big like we did. But can you find spaces where Brandon Garrison does that? Can you find a spot where Muhammad could make a couple bounce passes in there? And then, I mean, Yelovich had a really nice pass in there too. So you're starting to find these guys' ability to actually be able to facilitate. Malachi had 3 assists in this game too. That's probably the part I think I've been most impressive with the bigs. I mean, still aren't rebounding. Malachi's, blocking a good amount of shots. Obviously, we've gone over it so many times of how Malachi's exceeded our expectations. I'm hoping there's a year or two of Malachi Moreno because a 20-pound offseason of him bulking up would be incredible. Jake, I know what you're going to say. I went over it by myself on the last podcast, going back and forth with the 3 people inside my head.
I've told you for a few months now, every time we talk about this team doesn't have NBA players, Malachi is looking like an NBA player. I don't know if he'll go this year because, like, unlike some other guys, like, I do think there's another level there. So I am kind of with you. Like, if he puts on 20 pounds, gets more physical. I mean, his shot blocking has probably been the thing that's been the most.
He's gotten so much better over the past, this stretch. Yes.
It's funny because, like, we still talk, and he does it on rebounds where you're like, you can't slide a piece of paper under his feet.
It's crazy.
But when he goes up for a block, man, he gets up. So I don't know, like, if we just need to tell him, like, hey, jump like you're blocking a shot when you go get a rebound. But
him and Mo are the same person, dude. When it comes to just like their athleticism. If they have to think about it, it's not going to go well. But if they just naturally react, they actually have athleticism to be able to go up and get blocks and rebounds. And you see it from both of them in, game out.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of blocks, Ortega got absolutely robbed on that. That would have been Sports Center top 10, the chase down. I mean, I understand why you call it. The guy kind of like that's a tough one to make. But looking back at the replay and he gets all ball, that was Ortega at his best there.
Yeah, and that's the Ortega you're going to need if this team's going to go far. I mean, you need that on both ends of the floor. And Jake, what has he scored? 20-plus points in 5 of the last 6 SEC games. I think the only one that it wasn't was that Vandy game.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about the SEC Player of the Year. I mean, you're talking about, like, that's how he's starting to play now. Obviously, this conference is loaded with talent, and just because of the start of the season that he had, I don't think he's probably going to claim that honor like he did in the preseason. But he's been incredible. And if, like I said, there's only ever one real critical claim I make of Ortega, and it's of all these guards as well. We got to help the bigs get rebounds too. I think that's a big part of why we get out rebounded so much. Like Malachi and Brandon Garrison combined for 12. You look at your 3 guards that played 28, 30, and 36 minutes. You only had 8 combined between the 3 of them. I mean, that's a lot of floor time, and especially when you have, like, Collins, a bigger guard.
Yep.
Ortega obviously plays physical. Gonna have to get more rebounds in that, and I think especially against a team like Florida, those guys are gonna have to rebound the rock a lot better because, when Collins started getting on this stretch there for a while, we were pointing at it where he's like, oh, he had 7 rebounds in this game. He just had 6 there. Same thing with Ortega. And you can point to spots in the game where you get a rebound from a guard, it's so much easier to get out on the run. And we strive in transition. And I think for this team to take another step, like they've continued to take over this 9-game stretch, those guards' rebounding ability is a big part of it.
Yeah. And I was about to say, like, with Colin, like, that's the one area where I think pretty quickly he could take his game to another level. You're talking about he's a bigger guard. He's obviously probably the best athlete on the floor in most situations. And he's figuring out the offensive side. He's obviously got the 3 ball, still needs to finish around the rim a little bit better. And then you have the defense ability that you saw against Ament there. The next step would be if he can add, averaging 5+ boards down the stretch here. And I think it's clearly in there. We've seen games where he can do it, but, like, that would be the thing that I think could take him to the next level. If you can tell me you get that 13 you were talking about, 13 and 5 from Colin down the stretch, I think that would be so huge for this team going forward.
Yeah, especially when like our bigs just aren't playing that many minutes in general. We
Right.
go pretty guard heavy, and even when like Trent Noah comes in, he played 15 minutes in this game. Like what? I go through my spells with Trent Noah more than anybody. I think I feel like, and I mean this one, 15 minutes and only one rebound. But you see the Arkansas game, and it's like this guy's
4
the
and 2
white
the
white
first.
of Kenneth Fareed,
Yeah.
and it's just like where's the middle ground for this? Was the Arkansas like the peak, and was this the floor? Because if he's going to play those 15 minutes and he's going to be, a 3 or a 4 when we're out there running them on the offensive side of the ball, like he's got to get more than one rebound in 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, not Trent's best game, It's kind of weird. We saw him as the Tennessee killer a year ago, and I think those are the games where he's played a lot of minutes and probably played the worst so far this year. So I don't know, but I think that's just like we know that's probably just Trent, right? There's going to be nights where he makes a couple threes and grabs rebounds, and then there's going to be games where he takes one shot and grabs one rebound, and that's just that's why I think you can't play him more than 15 minutes on any given night, just because you don't know what kind of version you're going to get of him.
Yeah, and Jake, only 20 minutes for my guy Yelly in this one. 4 points, missed his 2 threes, missed both of his free throws, which was part of our
that was right as you, right as he got the steal. You text me and you were like Yelly, and then it was like a quick commercial. It was the under 8 or whatever, and he comes back out and clanks them both off the rim, and I was like, I would love just one made free throw here.
Same here, but I mean,
so that one we can put on you. You jinxed him. You got excited.
Yeah, I mean, I love seeing like what he can bring this team, especially when you're talking about running out 3 guards and Malachi, who doesn't really stretch the 4. Like I think that's still your best 5 when it comes to just like running a group of 5 out there with the guys we have now. I really just love what he can bring. Like even in this one, had a steal, had a block, 4 rebounds in 20 minutes. Had some drives, obviously missed both of his free throws, but I'd love to see where he's starting to get. And I don't know if Florida is going to be that game just because of the physicality that's going to be played. But he's shown – the weird thing is he's shown flashes to be able to play in like every game, but he hasn't shown 25-plus minutes of a full game to be able to do that. And I don't know if that's just the fact that he hasn't gotten that many minutes to be able to do that or if that's necessarily a Yelovich problem.
Yeah, I don't know. And he's weird because it feels like any given night he can go out there and probably give you 18 to 20 minutes, but like it could also be a game where for whatever reason stuff's just clicking for Diabate and you're running Diabate out there 28 minutes and Yelovich never really gets the chance. I think we obviously have seen that a handful of times, including the Tennessee game in Knoxville, right? And so I don't know, but like we're getting back to kind of how we were talking early in the year is like you kind of have some versatility. You can mix and match, really outside the 3 guards. Like, where do you want to go at the 4? We saw, a stretch where they played all 4 guards with Jasper and a big, and then you have these stretches now where, you can have Yelovich playing to knock down some threes. If it's a super physical game and he's bringing his A game, you can throw Diabate in there. There were a lot of times Saturday, I don't know how much I loved it, but it worked, where you had BG and Malachi on the floor together. Like, that's not something
on that one.
Yeah, that's not something on paper. I feel like I've said this every time he's done it because, we haven't done it a ton this year. Every time I'm like, I hate this lineup on paper, and then they get out there and they actually give you 2 or 3 pretty solid minutes and don't hurt you. So it's weird, but, I just think you're starting to kind of unlock a lot of these different kind of options. And would it be nice if you could throw Cam Williams in there? Absolutely, but you can't, and you're figuring it out one way or another.
Jake, you know who I'd love to have for this Florida game?
JQ. Yeah,
I'd love. Oh, man, this
he would be the one to go up against Cognan.
Yeah, and JQ, man, if you're not going to play again, can I get you for one game or the 2 games against Florida? Like, if we would just play Florida, can I have you for those games?
I saw some rumblings. Maybe we haven't seen
I
the
did.
last of JQ. So
I mean,
I'm not going to say I
let's get
believe
into
him,
that
but
conversation, Jake. Like, is this
I don't want
something
to.
that we're getting into? I'm more talking about like, let's say he is fully healthy. We're starting to see like some finally this team getting some cohesiveness with the
Yeah.
injuries and like obviously just Jalen Lowe's done for the year, guys. He's not coming back. You've seen Denzel step up in that absence. You've seen Colin step up in that absence. Since you've gotten the JQ news, you've seen Mo show up
Yep.
bigger. You've seen Brandon Garrison show up bigger. I think Malachi is starting to hit a little bit of a freshman wall. I think his legs are starting to get a little tired, and that's why you're starting to see BG play a little bit more minutes. Is this something that, like, let's leave outside the Florida games because I think we both agree that he's a terrific guy to have for those. Is this one that you bring him back? Is this something you just like his role is back with the team, or what is it? Because it's hard to say it about a guy who you are pretty sure he's going to be a lottery pick no matter what he does. But where do you stand?
I mean, if he's healthy, you have to play him, right? Like, there's just not a like. I'm still not forgetting that St. John's game. I understand he probably didn't play.
Who are you telling?
But I mean, that guy looked like a top 5 pick, and to your point, he's still going to be a lottery pick, and that's just not a talent you have. But I am with you. Like, it's like if he does come back, like whose minutes would he realistically take? And it's like probably Brandon Garrison's. But then you're seeing how well BG's played as of late, and we know the Brandon Garrison experience is up and down. So like I can't say that I'm confident in sticking with BG playing 18 minutes for the rest of the year and feeling great about it. Like he's going to have games where he just drives us crazy and can't do anything right. But if JQ's healthy, I'm good with it. But like that window is definitely shortening, right? Like it can't be March 1st and like he's just getting out there and we're trying to get his legs under him and get him back in basketball shape, 2 weeks before the tournament starts. So like I still feel that way, but like ask me in 2 weeks and I might just say like, hey, he doesn't have enough time to catch up and it's just not going to work.
And we're also talking about this is a full week off for this team until they play again on Saturday. If you're not going to be healthy enough for, I mean, how many games now has he missed since?
It was Missouri was the last one he played because he only played like 2 minutes in the second half against Missouri.
So he's now missed 9 games consecutively. You're talking about another full week off. You think it's an injury, Jake?
Yes, I think they probably brought him back too soon to begin with, right? Like I think when you look at every person with an ACL, like for the most part, like you need almost a full year. Like let's not forget it was end of February last year when he tore it, and then you were trying to have him play December. I could very much believe that his knee was pretty swollen, and maybe things weren't going right at the time, and he said, "Hey, my knee hurts, and I'm gonna sit down." But like, I don't know. I do think it's some sort of an injury, and he's probably going to be a lottery pick, but like, it's not helping him that the last game you saw him, he scored 1 point against a bad SEC team. So like, I do think like if he truly wants to raise his draft stock as high as it can be, he's got to play. And I think that's, if he could, he probably would be out there to at least try to improve that to an extent. But I can fully believe he probably came back a little too soon, and now the knees having issues.
Hey, Jake, I'll be down there on Thursday in Lexington, and I'll get to the bottom of this. I'll go find JQ somewhere. I'll get to the bottom of this, and I'll let you know. I'll do some reporting. That's what we're known as, you and I, reporters. We're beat reporters. We get to the bottom of the truth.
That's you.
You guys,
that's you. I just blabber.
Don't forget who got you that Muhammad Diabate scoop first, Jake.
It's true. That's true. Granted, you had it.
Luckily for us, it was still correct, and he didn't back out on his word. But I just don't know what to think about the entire situation because I don't want to say I'm a skeptic when it comes to knee swelling, but it's also the fact that he played in 3 games after that St. John's game. And then you saw his usage trend down, wasn't playing well. Obviously, the fit in the offense wasn't something that was going well. His dad's obviously tweeting. everything seemed to be a little too like they just all pointed in a direction that
Yeah.
maybe this isn't knee swelling. Because you would think you would have seen that after the initial St. John's game or after the first 2 full weeks of being back in full contact and full go, not 3 weeks later is when the knee starts to swell.
I will say, like,
I'm not a doctor. I also want to say that. I don't know what I'm talking about here.
I'm gonna make points that support your claim while also still saying I do think it's probably an injury related. Like there are a lot of like breadcrumbs that kind of lead up to the Arkansas game. You got Cam Williams and Jalen Lowe live streaming and on Instagram or whatever, watching the game, cheering. That's two of your three injured players. You had a team picture right before the Tennessee game that
Well, at least JQ was at the Arkansas game, so we can at least like dispel that one. He was there, so that would have been why he wasn't live streaming. But yes, I'm glad you mentioned the fact that he wasn't in the team picture for the.
and maybe he was getting some therapy on his knee at the time they took it. I think if that is the case, that's pretty poor recollection on Kentucky's part because like what the rumors are going to be, and I'm sure like the most likely explanation is usually the one that's correct, and like most likely like maybe he was getting a knee massage or doing some type of treatment and they took the picture, but like if you're UK, I don't think you can post that one without him at this particular time.
No, especially with how many eyeballs are going to be on that with Kentucky fans. Like I mean, think of Louisville's like team basketball picture last year. How many times that got circulated around because obviously Kentucky fans were going to see it, and definitely wasn't the best look. And me, I don't know if there's a person that's higher on Jaden Quaintance than yours truly.
Sure. You called him Anthony Davis. Actually, I think you said better than Anthony Davis.
I don't remember saying that fully, but I do think that the athleticism is similar. And especially when you're talking about them at the same age, both slender. And we're talking about like JQ's also not slender anymore either. Like this guy's like a rock Jacob Boyers. Like him and Jake going in on bench press. I'm not sure who's putting up more plates.
He's like third year in the league, Anthony Davis. If you remember Davis when he first got to New Orleans was tiny. By the time, 3 years and he's making consistently the All-Star.
Yep. And I mean that's why I was so excited after that St. John's game.
I'm there with you.
The roller coaster, Jake. I'm gonna get us shirts with like a roller coaster on it, and we're just gonna be in the cars, just going up and down.
Up and down.
That's because that's what it seems like.
Sure,
Jake,
I'm sure you'll find a way to make an AI video of it.
I got a clown picture of you on the go, ready at any time for whenever you have a bad take. And I'm really hoping you make a bad one, and we do the Boyers fade because I obviously got a feeling that you're going to pick these Florida Gators. But Jake, talk to me a little bit about these Gators. What you're expecting to see on Saturday from the Cats, and do we have a chance to have a Denzel Aberdeen revenge game?
Man, I hope so, but I don't feel great about it. I mean, their forwards and center, I think are obviously a real matchup problem. I mean, what's his name, Hugh or Huge, like averaging 17, not huge, but and then Congdon we talked about. Like I think he's going to be the biggest matchup problem for us. Their guards don't scare me a ton. I know I mentioned Boogie Flans kind of turned the corner, and while he is playing a lot better than he was early in the year, I still think that's not like the huge disadvantage, but their front court is so good. I mean, that game against Alabama a week ago or whatever, they did whatever they wanted inside the paint, and Alabama had zero answer for it. And I think we're going to be in a similar situation. If there was a game, you mentioned it, for JQ to play, this is probably the one you really wish you could have him for. But unfortunately, I don't expect him to play. And even if he did, I don't know how much it would make a difference because that front court is really, really, really good. But this Florida team, I'm saying
you heard this negativity. Listen to this guy and all this negativity.
This guy. Who was the one to pick us to go 4-1, beat Tennessee, beat Arkansas? This guy. Anyway, this Florida team still has the ability to, have some clunkers, right? Like they lost on the road to Auburn. They did not play very well, especially early in that game. That was a game they were down like 16 or something, and battled back and made it close at the end. But like they lost at Missouri, they lost to TCU earlier in the year. Like they
I
have the
don't know what that
ability
game
to
was about.
to throw up some clunkers. So like at times they look like they can beat anybody, and they're one of the best three teams in the nation. At other times they haven't looked all that great. So I I'm not I don't feel great about the game. Obviously, I'm gonna pick Florida to win, but like there is a world they just kind of have one of those games where they're not playing their best, and we come in and win.
And you mentioned the front court that they have. Thomas Howell, 17.8 points per game. Alex Condon, 13.4. And Robert Chinaloo is 12 a game. What kind of role do you think we have? Because it seems like we go matchup dependent on how we play a lot, especially over this like 9 game stretch. Do you think there is a good role to play for this, or do you think this is where we just try to play our brand of basketball and just see how it goes the first 20 minutes of play, and then we can try and conform at halftime to what's going on?
Yeah, I think you just got to play your style of basketball because like I don't even know what the best mix and match of those front court guys
I
is.
don't either.
Like
Yeah,
like this is a game where I don't think Trent Noah is going to be able to play. So like you kind of take him out of the mix. I think he's really going to struggle in this one unless he just gets hot from three and you're willing to live with his defensive efficiencies because he's going to make some shots. But like I don't know. Like I think you just got to kind of play these guys and figure out who's giving you the best effort, who's giving you, the most physicality on the defensive side. You would say on paper physicality wise, like maybe Mo, but Mo's undersized going up against, these guys. Like he's going to be giving up a lot there. Size wise, you would maybe think Yelovich, but is he athletic enough to stay in front of these guys and grab rebounds? I don't know. So I think you're just kind of you're throwing it out there, and if there's a world that you beat them, it's because Oweh and Denzel each go for 18 plus, and Chandler knocks down three or four threes, and you win because of your guard play, and your front court just pretty much survives.
yeah. And Jake, tell me if I'm crazy for saying this. Obviously, we're talking about two of their better players here. But when I think of like matchups that aren't going to work for this Kentucky team, my first immediate thought is Robert Chinaloo and like how big and physical he
Yeah,
is and how he crashes the glass. I mean, this is a guy who averages 12 and 11.5 a game. Like
he's he's a problem.
this this is one that I don't want to say. I'm trying to figure out the best way to phrase it. I don't think this isn't a game where you can play Malachi 25 plus minutes. Like if you
I
think a
can
guy
see
like
that.
Jalen, I don't think like if you see a guy like Jalen Carey be able to kind of take care of Malachi with physicality, if you see like this is a whole new level
Yeah,
of
I
that.
don't think that's I don't think that's like a crazy take or anything. Like I can definitely see it. Like this is probably going to be one he struggles, but like it for that to happen, it depends what you're getting from BG. Is BG fully
It's got to be a
engaged
big BG
and
game. Yeah.
yeah, is he fully engaged and giving you everything he's got? Okay, great. You can play him if he's having this game where he's not interested or he's trying to do too much and he's killing you. Then you just throw Malachi out there and hope he can figure it out because
Mhm.
like so
Jake, this could be one of the games, and we're mentioning giving up a ton of size. Is this a game where maybe you see Mo running some of the five? Because I
yeah.
mean,
I mean,
when I'm thinking of like physicality and like the guys that we have, Mo top of that list, even with the size limitations that he has.
yeah. Well, that was my point. Like right, like Mo can give you that physicality, but he's giving up the height.
To
Yelovich has
all
the
three of
height,
their
but
court
yeah,
guys
yeah,
too.
yeah. Yelovich has the height, but probably doesn't have the physicality you would want to see.
Mark it down, Jake. Big yellow game if he gets the opportunity. Mark it down.
I think he's going to have the opportunities because I think you're going to have to play, like I said, all four of them and rotate it and figure out who's giving you the best. But yeah, I would this this would not be a game to shock me if we come on here and we're talking about how Mo Diabate played nearly 30 minutes off the bench. Like I could fully see that.
Yeah, and when we're talking about trying to match up with Florida, like Condon 6'11", Howe 6'9", and then Chinaloo, he's what is he? I think he's He's 6'10". So I mean, you're talking about those are three guys that
And they're
the only matchups you have for that. And when you're especially when you're talking about Hal, like he's an athletic 6'9". This isn't just like a statue down there like your typical big. I
who guards him, Colin? Do you run the Nate Ament back like
that's why I asked you like going into the game, like what do you try to run at them for this first 20 minutes? Because that's
a
where
zone?
I that's I don't know, and like that's why there's so many things on paper that point to this team losing and
Yep.
probably losing comfortably. Being on the
Mhm.
road. Whenever I say that, they win the game.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. I'm trying not to clip myself for a minute segment here and put it out there saying we're going to lose by 15 like I did against Arkansas and have people in my mentions for 3 weeks.
I mean, if you ask me what I think's most likely to happen, it's probably Kentucky loses by, 10, 12, like somewhere in that range, and you're really never in it. You don't get blown out, but, you never really have a chance. Similar to like the Alabama games. Like that's how I kind of think this plays out. But again, like if you ask me, like, is there a path for this team to win? There definitely is, and I think our backcourt's going to have to play so much better than theirs, which they're capable of. I mean, if you look at
Which they
Owe,
should, yes.
I mean, if you look at Owe, Aberdeen, and Colin Chandler, they should be able to give you better minutes than Lee and Boogie Flan.
Yeah, I mean,
So
Zaven Lee's averaging 10.7 and Boogie's averaging 11.3.
yeah,
And think about this team, and like obviously, we've kind of alluded to it with the size that they have. They're not a good 3-point shooting team. So
Yeah.
you mentioned running zone at them. I mean, that's something I think is definitely on the table. They're only shooting 28% from three.
Yep.
So I'm gonna try and paint you a rosy picture, Jake, of how things I think need to happen for these Cats to win, and then I'm gonna tell you that they're gonna lose right after. But let me try and paint you a rosy picture. First off, I've already mentioned to you, I think you got to give Yelovich a chance in this game. If you're going to match up physically with not having Jaden Quaintance, because I think Pope knows if this is a real injury, or if it's not. He can tell the media and the fans whatever he wants just to kind of protect Jaden Quaintance from getting, the shade and sharp treatment, because nobody really wants JQ to get that. You've got to give Yelovich an extended run. Obviously, he has to earn that once he gets out on the floor. And I think if you look back on this game and you see Yelovich and Mohamed Diabate both at like that 7-rebound clip, I think this team has a pretty good chance to win the game. And then obviously we're talking about the guards.
25 from LA, another 18 from Denzel, something like that.
I mean, you're at the point now where you have to get that from those guys regardless of almost what game it is. I think you probably just need probably like 50, 55 combined points between the three of them when you're talking about Chandler, Ortega, and Denzel. And I think if you get the 55 points between the three of them, you find guys that match up physically with. I think Muhammad can do that. I think BG can give you spurts. I'm worried about Malachi in this game. I think that's the recipe for them to win. I don't think they have to get like crazy hot from three. I don't think this has to be like a shootout type of game. It's just you mentioned they don't miss a lot of shots. You just can't give them second and third opportunities, and unfortunately, I got a feeling they're going to have a lot of those.
Yep. All right, well, go ahead. Let's hear your score prediction. You go first.
Always throwing it to me first.
I got no. That's liar. I got mine right here. I'm going to see if we're kind of thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of like trying to get a gauge of what this team scores. They're so volatile with their offense. Like they had back-to-back games against South Carolina and Alabama where they scored 95 and then 100.
Yep.
And then they scored 67 against Auburn and 79 against LSU. So even predicting what they're going to do is going to be a little tough. But give me Florida. I'm going to say they get into the 80s. I'm going to say it's 84-75 Cats. I'm going to say honestly, we're just kind of at an arm's length away the entire game. We're always like somewhat in the game, but we're always 3 possessions down. You kind of feel like you're in it, but you never really threatening Florida to win at their home court.
You pretty much took the words right out of my mouth. I got us losing by 9, slightly different. I had 87-78, and I agree with you. I think it's just going to be one of those games where we're down anywhere from 8-12 the entire time, and there might be a moment where we cut it to 6 and we're thinking about getting something going, and then Florida makes an and one, and next thing you know, we're right back to where we were. So I think that's just how it's going to play out. Hopefully I'm wrong. We've talked obviously about how this team can win this game. Again, Florida has the ability to throw up a clunker.
What do you think they need to do to win this game? Like if you were to look at, let's just say
I think it's everything we talked about. Your guards are going to have to significantly outplay theirs. You're going to have probably one of those special games from Ortega where he's not taking bad shot, 25 on, 9 of 12 shooting again like he did at Arkansas, or, 8 of 12, something in that ballpark. I think you'd probably need another, 10 to 12 out of Colin, and then Denzel to have that anywhere from 18 to 20.
Are you worried about Denzel pressing at all going back to Florida?
Maybe a little, but
or do you think he's outgrown it?
Even then, man, like some of these tough shots he's taking, he's making right now. I mean, he made that little turnaround there in the second half against Tennessee. So I don't know. I could see him press a little bit, but I think he's kind of outgrown it. He's just been such a more mature player and taking better shots. And I forget who it was talking about him. It was one of the field of 68 guys, and they were talking just how Denzel especially is his shot selection so much better earlier in the year, and he's not pressing as much. And I think they were talking about him and Ortega to an extent, and Chandler, like just how much better of the shots we're working to get within the offense. So yeah, as long as he doesn't press too much, and I don't see Diabate, trying to take guys one-on-one, we have a chance, right? I think, like you said, we'll be within arm's length the entire game, and just we probably don't make a few plays here or there to kind of get us to where it's a one-score game with 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, and crazy thing is my judgment, just looking at this game is telling me Florida's obviously winning this game. But the fan of me in the back of the head's like, why not?
Yeah,
we keep thinking.
Hey, you asked if we're back.
8 of the last 9.
I think we're back.
We are back. And Jake, it was good to have you back for this podcast, man. Hey. Great to have you back. I mean, you said some clown things, but I've gotten used to it so far. But if you like the clownery that Jake and I spew, make sure you follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, on X, TikTok. We're anywhere and everywhere you get your content. Jake, we're getting so close to 500 subscribers. And I know, when you looked at your YouTube, you weren't even subscribed. So guys, make sure you check and make sure you're subscribed to the Cats Talk podcast. That's going to be all for us for this week. Hopefully the Cats can go down to Gainesville and pull off a shocker just like they did 2 Saturdays. Actually, I mean, back-to-back Saturdays. They've now pulled off upsets. So let's hope they can continue to get one.
I don't know who the referees are going to be this Saturday, but after back-to-back Saturdays of Doug Schals and Pat Adams, SEC, I'm begging you. I need a break. I can't do it. Like, no Doug Schals, no Pat Adams. Give me one Saturday where I don't have to watch one of those clowns.
All right, so Nicholas Biltz will be on the call for the Florida Gators game, and Jake and I will be reacting tremendously to this game. Big Blue Nation, that's all we got for you. Let's hope these Cats can make it 9 out of 10. Go Big Blue.
Go Big Blue.